Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki, Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajika Jaja Shuddhara Shri Srimad is Divine Grace Shila Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Bhupari ki jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajika Jaja Shuddhara Shri Srimad is Divine Grace Shila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Bhupari ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brindi ki jai, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samveda Bhakti ki jai, Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, ceasing Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. This morning's verse. Who's backing up? Oh, is that a smoke alarm? Is that Dvijamani making his Moscow special for breakfast? Well, at least we know it works, right? That's good. You know, I just forgot. Speaking of smoke alarms, did a puja yesterday, and I just remembered I forgot the cover I put on their smoke alarm on their ceiling. Anyways, it's a gift. Special little cover I put on smoke alarms during havans. What do you know? Something to remember me by. Okay. So, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Prahlad pacifies the Lord with prayers. This is text 53. We have just 2 more texts in the chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Mam aprinata ayusham darshanam dulabam hi me trishtva mam na punar jantur atmanam taptum arhati mama prinata ayushman darshanam dulabam hime drishtva mamna punarjantur atmanam taptum arhati mama prinata ayusham darshanam dulabam hime drishtva mamna punarjantur atmanam taptum arhati mama prinata ayushman darshanam dulabam hime drishtva mamna punarjantur atmanam taptum arhati. Anyone like to chant? Ayushman
Atmanam taptamarhati Atmanam taptamarhati Mama prinita ayushman Mama prinita ayushman Darshanam dulabam hime Darshanam dulabam hime Vishvamana punarjantur Vishvamana punarjantur Atmanam taptamarhati Atmanam taptamarhati Mama prinita ayushman Mama prinita ayushman Darshanam dulabam hime Darshanam dulabam hime Vishvamam punarjantur Vishvamam punarjantur Atmanam taptamarhati Atmanam taptamarhati Mama prinita ayushman Mama prinita ayushman Darshanam dulabam hime Vishvamana punarjantur Atmanam taptamarhati Atmanam taptamarhati.
Anyone else?
Mam prinita ayushmam Darshanam durlabham hime.
Darshanam dulabam hime.
Drashtvam mam na punarjanma.
Drishvamam na punarjantur.
Anturatmanam taptum arhati.
Atmanam taptumarhati.
Hare Krishna.
Mama prinata ayushman. Darshanam dulabam hime. Drishtamam na jvanarjanur. Atmanam taptamarhati. Mam, me, aprinataha, not pleasing. Ayushman, O long living Prahlad. Darshanam, seeing. Dulabam, very rare. He, indeed. Me, of me. Drishtva, after seeing. Mam, me. Na, not. Punaha, again. Jantuhu, the living entity. Atmanam, for himself. Taptum, to lament. Arhati, deserves. Translation. My dear Prahlad, may you live a long time. One cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me. But one who has seen or pleased me has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. I'll read that again. My dear Prahlad, may you live a long time. One cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me. But one who has seen or pleased me has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. Purport. One cannot be happy under any circumstances unless one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one who has learned how to please the Supreme Lord need no longer lament for his material condition. I'll read that again. One cannot be happy under any circumstances unless one pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one who has learned how to please the Supreme Lord need no longer lament for his material condition. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulun Minitam Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Nyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapatandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakapatarubhascha kripa sindhubheva patidanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So by your good wishes, ardent hopes, dreams, aspirations, letters to the editor, whatever you have, please send it my way so I can try to say something intelligible and helpful for our Krishna consciousness. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Is anyone tired today? This weather makes you kind of tired, does it? What do you think? You're the... Who? Yeah, he's tired. A little tired. Okay. No sleeping in my classes. It'll cost you a few points on the test. Hold the sign. Where do they do that, Father Ram? Czech Republic, they hold the sign. So if you fall asleep, you got to stand up and hold the sign. Okay, feel the weight of the Bhagavatam. Okay, so text 53. About happiness. We talk a lot about happiness here, and actually it's interesting, you ask someone, hey, how you doing? What do they usually say? I'm good. I'm okay, right? Could be better. I've seen worse, right? It's interesting because there's a gradation of happiness. And it is interesting that rarely do you meet someone and they go, I'm ecstatic. I'm just blissful all the time. I'm ecstatic. I'm in ecstasy. Have no worries. What is that, Australian? No worries, mate. Right? No worries, mate. So It's very rare. And even if someone says that, usually they're on something, right? Right? I don't have a care in the world because I just... and that's why intoxication today is so prevalent. It's interesting this summer because, I sit out here and chat for about an hour before I come in the morning. So I get to see life on Grand Avenue from about 3:30 to 4, It's quite interesting. In the summertime, you probably hear them, don't you, all night long? Because people in the summertime, they're drinking a lot. And they're always walking down the street afterwards, yelling and screaming. And somehow or other, they drink. They feel like they can be as loud as they want without any consideration that the whole neighborhood's sleeping. Just a sec. But intoxication is very popular because people are unhappy. And they want to alter their consciousness. And it's an interesting phenomena that the more brain cells you destroy, you have good feelings. What a ripoff in the material world, isn't it? You have to because that's what alcohol does. I imagine many drugs do that. They just destroy. You have a certain, how many? A few billion brain cells or a few trillion or something? So you think, I got a lot. I can spare some every Saturday night or Friday, what? But actually, after a while, it adds up. They're not there anymore. So the point being, there's gradations. Okay, I'm okay. Or I'm happy. But how about ecstasy? Ecstasy. Only if you mean we talk in different terms here. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita talks about happiness. I'll jump to it right now. In the Bhagavad Gita, because we know in the material world there are 3 modes of material nature. What's the lowest one, Sankarshan? Nothing personal. I'm just asking a question. What's the lowest one? Hare Krishna. Okay, you go back to the Bhakti program, turn in your saffron cloth. Okay, what's the lowest mode? Ignorance. What's the next one? Passion. And? Sankarshan. Goodness. Okay. Okay. Well, we can take his goodness. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the last chapter, Krishna is talking about the divisions of different things in the modes of material nature. And he talks about happiness, just to get an idea, because it's not all the same. People sometimes, they'll go like this. Hey, that's your happiness, and this is my happiness. As if it's all the same. But maybe my happiness is making sure you're unhappy. How do you feel? Are you happy about that? No, because actually in the material world, if you think about it, our happiness is dependent upon the unhappiness of others. Let that sink in. How is that? Because everything we utilize for our happiness has come about by the struggle and suffering or stepping on others. Sorry to inform you, but that's true. People, that's a big one. That's a very big one. So, we can just go on all day long with the list. But anything we have, people have suffered to make that arrangement, either willingly, and they got paid for it, just like you're mentioning the floor. So I was here supervising when this floor went in, and the 2 guys putting it in, they suffered. Because I went to LA with them. We had to bring all these back down. They unload 2 of them, 2 guys. They unloaded all of this marble right onto the patio, And then, has anyone here done any tile work? Raise your hand if you've done tile work. Yeah, you just raise it a little bit because it's back-breaking. I've done quite a lot of it myself, tile work. It's back-breaking, especially when you do floors, and especially big pieces like this. But we're all sitting here, what a beautiful floor. Let's enjoy this floor. But 2 people really suffered a lot to put it in, So that's just an example. So I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but it's a interesting phenomena that, well, I'm happy and you're happy, and there's really no difference. Just, you have your happiness and I have mine, and that's what life's all about. Well, dig a little deeper and you find out, well, that's not true. There are gradations of happiness. So Krishna is saying, giving one example right here, if it's all the same, well, why the differences? So here Krishna is saying that Arjuna, O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. So there's a type of happiness where you actually end all your distress. Now, is that better than a kind of happiness where you dig yourself deeper into distress? Okay, there you go. What do you think? Okay. Okay, here's text, that's 36, 37. I'll just read the English. That happiness, that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awaken ones to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So, at first it feels there's some difficulty there, some austerity, but at the end, when it actually turns to nectar and awakens one to self-realization, that's happiness and goodness. And then passion is that happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, and it's said to be of the nature of passion. So it's based upon the sparsha, right? The senses and their sense objects. And it seems wonderful in the beginning, but it goes bad. It goes bad sometimes real fast, like that. But sooner or later it goes bad. That's passion. And how about the last one, ignorance? And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion. Delusion from beginning to end, and arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. So there's actually quite a difference here. And this is the modes of material nature. And Krishna is explaining throughout the Bhagavad Gita, in fact I have another reference, that there's something beyond these three kinds of happiness, because even the happiness in the mode of goodness, Krishna criticizes that in a place in the Bhagavad Gita. Do you know why it's criticized? Well, it comes to an end, and also those in the mode of goodness, sometimes they have a sense of just satisfaction, self-satisfaction. Everything's okay, you know. And they give, even in that position, they give up their endeavor for self-realization. Like that, they're just self-satisfied. Like Hridayananda Maharaj in one lecture, he made a point that in Indian literature, going back thousands and thousands of years, in India they didn't really write about any other countries or anything like that. As far as they're concerned, they're the best, and they were, but they just didn't. You know, we're fine. We're just fine. You know, everything's just fine. And, you know, and sometimes people, that's why they give up. There's no preaching, even in different spiritual paths. You know, we're fine. But how about the other suffering souls? Prahlad Maharaj, we were reading so many verses. He says, you know, I am fine, but still, I'm concerned about the suffering of other living entities. I want to preach and help them. So just the self-satisfaction is a type of happiness, but it's definitely not the highest.
That's what he says. I am the Mashochetito Vimukha Chetasa, having turned away from you. They're bearing a great burden of maintaining this Maya Sukhaya, and I have to give them you, because that's where real happiness lies.
Okay. This is the verse in the Gita where Krishna is explaining a happiness which is beyond the modes of material nature. In the stage of perfection called trance, or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by the practice of yoga. Wouldn't you like to have your mind completely free from material mental activities? Does anyone feel that during the day? Mental activities? That means accepting and rejecting everything around us. So that's done. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self, and that's capital S here, by the pure mind, and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. So it's a type of happiness, unless you have transcendental senses, you can't appreciate it. Because these senses cannot experience boundless happiness. They can't. There was what they call the law of... What is that? Like you eat ice cream and then after a while you don't like it anymore? Satiation and something, anyways, but yeah. In other words, how much can you enjoy? Like that. Diminishing returns. That's it. The diminishing returns satiation. Right? How much ice cream could you eat before you go, I don't want any more? 1 scoop, 2 scoop, 3 scoop, right? And it's like, bah. The idea of eating another scoop. Oh, I see, okay. But still, there's a limit. The point, there's a limit with material senses. There's a limit. You can only enjoy so much, and then it becomes distasteful, becomes horrible, distasteful. But when one awakens one's transcendental senses, they're just like the demigods. They have senses also, and they can enjoy thousands of times much more than we can. They have that kind of a body, but still, even their bodies are material. So when you have a spiritual transcendental body and you awaken your transcendental senses, that's when you can enjoy boundless transcendental happiness. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken even in the midst of greatest difficulty. This is indeed actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Can't be shaken. So, everything we do, they say everyone is acting for 2 reasons. 2 reasons. 1, to avoid distress. 2, to go towards happiness. That's the motivation of every action. So it's like, just like you're sitting in class for 2 reasons. Think about the misery you're avoiding for not being here, because maybe the temple commander will get upset with you, right? And or whatever, just every single action we do, there's a calculation to move away from distress and move towards happiness. And that's material life. That's all we do. Every single living entity, from the amoeba, they say the amoeba, these one cell, because Sariputta is explaining this, they have some kind of consciousness because they see that they actually perceive some type of something in the solution they're swimming in that's detrimental, and they swim away from it. They're smart. Even an amoeba's got some kind of a brain going on there, some kind of something. It just, that's very rudimentary, but they're...
The ones who didn't swim away died off, and that's they evolved so that they...
Okay, you were there. You saw all that happen, right? Okay. So, now... we don't have too much more time, so let me just see here. One thing I want to bring up is Lord Nrsingadev speaking here, and he's making quite a powerful statement. He says, one cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me, but one who has seen or pleased me has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. So in other words, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the source of all happiness, because once you experience Krishna, there's no more lamentation. Now that's a pretty big statement. Just like here, so many promises are made to us. If you get this, if you buy this, if you go here, if you live here, you'll be so happy. Right? You'll be so happy. But they're empty promises. But Krishna's making the promise, and actually throughout the Bhagavad Gita and throughout the Bhagavatam and so many literatures, there's so many times where Krishna's making a promise. He's promising. In fact, he's in the Bhagavad Gita, he wants to make sure we believe him so much that he actually asks Arjuna to say, right? Konteya pratijani name bhakta pranashyati. Arjuna, you tell everyone, because, sometimes I do break my promise, but he does break it only for his devotees. But he says, sometimes, but you never break your promise. So you tell everyone, like that he'll always protect, always take care of his devotee, like that. So Krishna's the promise is being made here that, yes, if you become Krishna conscious, you'll be happier than you've ever been before. You'll be eternally happy. You'll be ecstatic. You won't just be okay. You won't just be satisfied or happy or good or, what would you say earlier? I could be better. Like that. Not too bad. Nothing horrible has happened yet today, right? This is really Murphy's Law. Is that Murphy's Law? Those kinds of things. Murphy's Law. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen. You know, if anything can go wrong, it's going to go wrong. So people have these different sayings to make light of the fact that this is the material world. Tu kalayam asashvatam. It's a temporary, miserable place. And to distract us from that reality, we have all these sayings. Every cloud has a silver lining. Like that. It's the darkest before the dawn. All kinds of things, you know. Like you said, it could be worse. Yes. Well, one door closes, another door opens. Well, one door closes, it slams in your face. Like that. So, but Krishna's making a promise, and that's why actually we're all here. As I said earlier, everyone is moving either away from distress or towards happiness. It's interesting, the biggest concern though is the second one, you know that, in marketing? When you market something, it's not the pleasure the object will bring to someone, it's the distress they'll get away from. That's actually what you stress in your marketing. People are more concerned about this particular thing will end my suffering, not so much that it'll bring me happiness. So you see that in marketing. So Krishna's making a promise. Another verse is this nadanam najananna sundaram kavitam va jagadisha kame mama janmani janmanishwari babatak bhakti hoitaki tai. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that because we're talking about varieties of happiness, what brings us happiness in this material world? And he's saying, wait a second, I don't want any of these things. Nadanam, I don't want money. I was listening to a lecture the other day, and the devotees were talking about this friend that had won $11.5 million in the lottery. A friend of this devotee had won that, and they brought it up. And the devotee was saying, I can see not being happy if you got $1 million, but 11 million? I don't know. Maybe you could be happy. That's pretty good. 1 million these days, the house I just went to do the puja, and I looked it up, I had to look up for directions, and it came up on Zillow, and it was like $1.5 million. But $1.5 million house in San Diego is just a one-story little, 3-bedroom little bungalow, So what's $1 million? You can't even buy a reasonable size house in San Diego with $1 million. So, but 11 million, maybe. Like that, or these people, I think it's one of those signs, it's up to 181 million right now. Someone just won the other one, it's 20, yeah, there's two, the Power and the other, because you see the big billboard on 8. Yeah. Are those people happy? Are they in ecstasy? I'm ecstatic, I just won $1 billion. Well, actually, the moment you think, wow, then they take, what, 40%? Then your ecstasy drops. Your ecstasy drops 40% because the government just took 40% as a gambling tax.
All kinds of friends and relatives come out of the woodwork, and suddenly...
It's anxiety. Like I tell people, this point of preaching that money is an interesting thing. When you don't have it, you're in anxiety. And when you have it, you're in anxiety. So it's not a cure-all. It's not a cure-all. It actually only becomes a cure-all when you use it in the service of Narayan, because it's Lakshmi. Then it actually becomes a source of happiness. But otherwise, it's the deluding potency. It's the currency of delusion. That's a nice saying, isn't it? You can quote me on that. It's the currency of delusion, money, right? Because with that we think, I can do anything I want. And that's why it's very dangerous. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not see Maharaj Pratapuja. You won't see a king, and all that opulence and so on, just stay away. Because it's the currency of delusion. Like that, you can enjoy like anything. So, there's nadanam, najanam, nasundaram, followers, like that. Association of the opposite sex, poetry, all these different beautiful music, all these different things. And even liberation. Now, we don't even think about that. People today, their idea of liberation is Friday afternoon. They don't have to work anymore. They have the weekend off. That's moksha. But actually becoming liberated from the bodily concept of life and understanding your atma or spirit soul, he doesn't even want that. Cessation of all material distress is actually unattractive. Bhavatat bhakti hoitiki toi. Devotional service, bhakti, ecstatic, pure devotional service, that is what the devotees are after. It is the impossible goal, but it is possible, right? It's the rarest thing, and in the beginning of this verse, Lord Nrsingadev says, you know how you get it? By pleasing me. That's it, just by pleasing Krishna. How do you please Krishna? By pleasing his devotees. And it all comes back. It's not something new. What is that verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sabyu Kabunai. It's there in the heart. It's who we are. We're just coming back to our healthy condition. That's our birthright. Our birthright is to be in ecstasy. And just 500 years and 500 something years ago, we read about the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees in his association. They were in ecstasy all the time. Their kirtans and just prasadam and just how they lived as ecstatic devotees. And that's what we're aspiring for. That's the happiness we're aspiring for. And that happiness is greater than anything else this material world can offer. So that's the promise Krishna's making. That's the promise of the spiritual master, the acharyas. And we just have to trust and act to get better, you know. It's interesting, I was listening to a lecture the other day, and Prabhupada always talks about people in the hospitals. You know, they're lying in bed, and you go and visit them, and they say, I'm okay. Why are you in the hospital if you're okay? You're sick. You know, it's like, I'm okay. Wait a second, I'm at the hospital and you're in the bed, and you got all these tubes and you're coming in your body and this and that, and the doctor, and you've been here for quite some time, and you're telling me you are okay? Well, if you're okay, what's bad? Wait, yeah. So you're not okay, but anyways, they say, I'm okay. I'm okay. And Prabhupada always gives the example that this is about impersonalism and so on. The idea that I'm in bed and I can't eat and whatever they feed me is horrible and this and that, and going to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. And then they tell you, well, when you get out of the hospital, you'll be able to eat. And so, but eating was so horrible, you know. But Prabhupada gave the example, he said, going to the bathroom. So when you get out of the hospital, you'll actually be able to go to the bathroom nicely. And the person saying, I don't want to go to the bathroom. But Prabhupada said, actually, when you're healthy, going to the bathroom's nice. You feel very refreshed afterwards. I've never heard Prabhupada, he always talks about the eating, but he said, actually going to the bathroom, it's not like bedpan and they got to like take care of you. On your own, you just go to the bathroom, and it's, Prabhupada said, quite nice, like that. So you feel good afterwards. So that's happiness in Krishna consciousness. Is way, way beyond anything in this material world. But, as Krishna says in the Gita, we have to have transcendental senses to perceive it. So, that's purification. Cetodarpanam arjanam bhavamaha davagni davapanam. At the end of that verse, anandam buddhivardhanam. It's an unlimited ocean that keeps increasing. But we can't perceive it with these senses. An example, it's warm here, but in the winter, if you wear a glove, if you put a glove on, you know, I guess, okay, in the kitchen. What was burning in the kitchen? Did you find out? The oven was, okay, so it wasn't Dwijamani running out the door on fire or anything like that, right? Okay, so in the kitchen you have these mitts, right? Right, you got these mitts so your hand doesn't burn. But you put those on, what can you do? You can't chant japa with it. It's just all big and bulky, and the feeling in your hand, the sensitivity is not there because it's covered. So our covering is much greater than that. I mean, we've got a lot of coverings, you know, gross and subtle and so on, over our transcendental mind and our senses and so on. So we really can't even perceive barely can perceive the happiness in Krishna consciousness. But as one becomes purified, that covering becomes thinner and thinner, and then gradually just disappears. So that's what Lord Nrsimhadev is referring to here. Like that. So we can end here. It's 8:34. You got to go. Not that I'm trying to get rid of you, but you said you have to go. Okay. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Dharmasetu Prabhu. You're speaking of, temporary and momentarily relief, and you hear all these excuses on book distribution. And I love this one when they're, a family or a group of friends. I ask them, "Have you heard of stress?" They say,
Closer.
I ask them, "Have you heard of stress?" They say, "No, we're on vacation," and they just walk away.
There's one person was saying that when they were growing up, going on vacation, they always wondered why the father looked so miserable. Dealing with all the kids and this and that. Why did my father always look so miserable on vacation? Go ahead.
So essentially, earlier you said something about how happiness comes from good, but that in itself it's suffering, right? You said something about that?
You made me refer, I read a verse in the Gita about there's happiness in the mode of goodness, but it's not pure, so is that what you're asking?
So essentially, I think a good way, and this is my opinion, of course, but I think a good way to replace this, right, is instead of using the word happiness, it's more like ego, because essentially, when happiness comes from the place of ego, you do things out of a place of attachment. So yes, you may be able to be doing these good things, right? And even though they may be good, it causes your own self-suffrage because of the attachment, right? But essentially, you're talking about this state of liberation as if it's this state of achievability, right? Where it's just like this fantasy, this dream. But in reality, it's just a constant state of unity with the observation of your own thoughts, right? And to a point when you do that, and I don't mean you, of course, I'm just talking about the external, is you essentially become the internal, the Krishna. Not that you yourself are, but essentially think about it as a tree where it's like you have all these different branches and leaves and they all have their own ideas, right? Just like us people. But right, they all lead to this main core, this trunk, which is Krishna, right? So from that, it's like we can come to understand that yes, doing good things out of your ego is self-suffering, right? Although it puts out good, it is still self-suffrage, and that's why attachment is the most crucial thing that you have to be aware of, because there is no protection from ignorance.
Very good point. Yeah, if anything done out of our false ego, even in goodness, it ultimately leads to distress. It's only when we're in our pure ego, which is Jivera Krishna Das, right? Eternal servant of Krishna, that we're truly happy. And our happiness is not dependent upon anyone else's suffering. Because like you said, the ego, the false ego gets in the way, even the philanthropists and so on. They want to do so much good, and on a certain level, we applaud them, but it's not the highest level, and they suffer, and they really can't relieve the suffering of others permanently. It's just a temporary amelioration, like that. So, should we end here? The time? All glories to Srila Prabhupada. May you be happy and long-lived. Hare Krishna.